Thank you again to the Asian Society, and thank you, everybody. I mean, look around. It's just so inspiring to be here and hear these stories, and your stories. I know, Wendy, we heard a little bit about yours, but let's talk about your journeys, Veronika, because it's always like, what is your path into, how did you get here? So, yeah, tell us how you got to Universal.
Thank you, Jazz. So I too originally hailed from Asia. My father's Chinese, my mother's German. I was born in Hong Kong, and I grew up living in Hong Kong, Lebanon, Germany, Bahrain, and graduated from high school in Amsterdam, and then came to America. And and I was really fortunate in those days because in those days I was here on a student visa to find somebody who. She was the lead marketing chief at Lorimar to sponsor me for a work visa. So she was this incredible, just sort of badass female executive walking the Croisette in Cannes in those days when there were very few of those, and it was very exciting for me to have my first job in entertainment under her. But very soon thereafter, Warner Brothers bought Lorimar, and I was hired over by a young, very ambitious, fierce, supportive, inclusive executive called Ed Frumkes, who brought me over as his internationalist, which was really exciting for me. And I started there as a junior executive and rose up the ranks with him when international in those days represented 28% of the world business. And we rose through the ranks to international, then representing 60% of the business by the time, he decided to leave the company. And then, as I mentioned, in my speech, I got my big break when Alan Horn gave me the opportunity to run the division after Ed left, which was a huge risk that he took, in those days, still quite a young, up-and-coming executive. I think I was the youngest president at the studio at the time. So, I'm very fortunate to have been surrounded by great people.
What about you, Julie? What's your journey?
My journey has not been linear. I've tried a lot of things. I also had many jobs myself. I changed industries probably 4 different times. Prior to gaming, I worked in hospitality. I started my career in human resources. So I had such deep passion for building culture, diversity, and inclusion, and I was able to do that across, again, various industries. And I was working in hospitality at the time when COVID hit, and it was always my dream to work in entertainment, but it was really, really hard to get in. To be very honest with you, I was not a really studious person, so I didn't have the grades, I didn't have the sort of educational background that I think a lot of entertainment companies were looking for in HR professionals. So I had to work really, really hard to fight for a spot for myself. And during COVID, I got a phone call from 100 Thieves, and kind of how I responded to this award today. I was like, oh, they're definitely calling the wrong person. It's Lucky Strike Entertainment I work for. It's not a production company. They're gonna be really disappointed. But I met with the entire executive staff, and I met with our founder, Matt Nadeshot Haig, who was 25, I think, at the time. And I thought, oh boy, I'm not sure how this is going to go, but I found so much respect for him and what he wanted to build at 100 Thieves, which was he really wanted to create an outlet for gamers to be themselves. Gamers have such a negative stereotype. Everyone believes that a gamer is an overweight teenager sitting in their mom's basement eating, Cheetos. I don't know, it may be true, but, there's so much more to that. And he was very inspired by what Stussy was doing for the skate community, and he really wanted to do that for the gaming community. He wanted to create 100 Thieves to be that. And so he wanted to hire someone that really believed in people. And so that's where we connected. And so it was truly just by chance that I got this opportunity to work at 100 Thieves, and I've worked with many founders, and throughout my career, I've always been advising, I've always been fixing from the back end, and finally Matt gave me an opportunity to be COO to run the company. So I run about 80% of the staff at 100 Thieves, and I truly cherish my role and I take it very seriously, and I always try to find opportunities to uplift women and people of color.
I love that. I want to come back to something you said, Wendy, during your speech about the no's. Like, I mean, this whole town is about no's. How do you keep going? What is the next step when you hear that first no, or like you have an idea and it's shut down, or you're told, this is not for you?
Well, unfortunately, I've only ever wanted to work in the music business. So I am already doing what I love, and even when I hear a no, I oftentimes try to be strategic about how I get that to a yes. And I do tell some of my more junior staff that some people have called it manipulation, but I like to think of it as being strategic. I like to focus on the end result and work backwards. And with that, right? With that, like, yes, I have opinions and I have a voice and I have a seat at the table, but I've also, with experience, learned when and where to speak up, if you will. Also, I think in our business, it's working in artist management is very it's very ungratifying, if that's a word. I think that, especially when you're working with new artists, 20% of nothing is still nothing. So, and I think that's when, like, you have to be smart and strategic, but also it's really important to find the passion. And I think it's easy to starve yourself if you're just living off passion, but it is like a key component of your diet ultimately. And we're quite selective in who we onboard as a client. And even over the years, even when I was working at the major labels, like, I heard no a lot more from the bigger corporations than I do when the closer you get to the artist. I think it's when things start to feel more connected. And, it's the same, I think, in whether it's in the gaming or in the movie industry. Like, the more access that you have to the creators, that's where I draw my inspiration from in trying to get the no to a yes ultimately. But just quickly, like, even today, like, I still get upset and frustrated when my comments, my ideas aren't listened to. And sometimes, like, I've just had to let go, frankly, and just really pick my battles. And I think that's more challenging in accepting a no when you know that at some other point you'll get a yes.
Veronika, do you want to chime into that? How do you overcome the no's?
Well, I think coming back to what you were saying at the beginning about understanding the people that you're working with, that you're speaking with, that you're trying to get for example, a project off the ground with, it's really about finding that common connection between yourself and the people that are in the room. What is it that motivates them? And I always try to understand and listen to and see and hear everybody that is speaking with me, whether that's my team, whether my colleagues, my leaders, the clients, the exhibitors that we negotiate with, really trying to find that common ground so that I understand what motivates them, that can help me find that path to bringing us together to result in a yes. And if that is, for example, supporting a film project that other people in the room may not be as enthusiastic about, what is it about it? Is it because it's too expensive? Is it because we would need another, actor or somebody to, whatever the combination is, you try to find that common ground and move it forward to a yes.
Love that. What about for you, Julie?
Honestly, no's drive my ambition. That is what gets me going. I love a no. I love a no because I am very competitive in spirit and it drives me. I think that that's truly what fuels sort of my next big thing. And 100 Thieves, when we search for new creators or when we're scouting esports players, we're really focused on what it is that they want for themselves. And it can't just be about the money, and it can't just be about the shine or the stardom. It has to be a little bit more purposeful. And so once we bring creators or players into our organization, we spend a lot of time and energy on helping them build their personal brand, and help them sort of find what it is that they want to do, what their greater purpose is, because a lot of the creators and a lot of the players that come to us are 16, 17 years old. So we feel like we have a duty to protect them, but also help them grow in their own way.
I'm going to switch lanes a little bit and talk about the election results. We're not going to get that political. I want to talk about, like, in terms of, I feel like a lot of people that I've spoken with in the last week, there's going to be a greater hunger. I mean, there's always been a hunger for diverse storytelling, but now more so than ever. How is that going to change the stories that you look to greenlight, that you look to the projects that you're going to be looking for?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, the two Daniels, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, came in to talk to us about a project, and in the conversation, they were talking about this concept of grieving globally and thriving locally in the context of how do they create, a thriving, happy, sustainable movie set. And so that stuck with me. It's something that I've always believed in as well. And, for me, this last week, and not to be political, but for me personally, I just felt a lot of pain about, this negative narrative towards women. And what's always been the most powerful thing for me is, while we cannot control what's happening out there in the world, what we do have control over, where we can make a difference, is within our own communities. And so, for me, that's about leaning into mentoring, supporting, lifting up other women within the community, and leaning into the stories that we have felt were really powerful to tell before, today, and must be told tomorrow.
Love that. Julie, what about for you in gaming and 100 Thieves?
I don't know if anyone spends a lot of time on Twitch or Twitter, but that's where the gaming community lives, and it's very divisive. So the last week, there's been a lot of chatter, but internally at 100 Thieves, there's been a lot of healing. We've sort of given all of our employees the opportunity to speak sort of their truth and how they're impacted by the results. And some people needed a day off, some people needed a conversation, and we made space for that. And that's something that I think is really important to do for young adults, is to create that space so that they can sort of express themselves no matter what their political opinion is. And I'm really proud about the creators that we do have. 50% of our creators are women, and they're women of color. And they have huge audiences. One of our creators, who's also co-owner, Valkyrie, is one of the biggest female creators in the world. I want to say she has maybe 30 million followers. She actually did a live stream with Bernie Sanders to talk about women's rights and just what it meant to her. She's Filipino-American. I believe she's first generation. And she really talked about the struggles about her family and what it took for her family to be here and to thrive in this world. And, it was just nice to kind of see the crossover of someone like Valkyrie and Bernie Sanders to have a conversation together. And I think that's truly just what it's about in gaming. Although it's divisive, you kind of have to cut through the noise by being the bigger voice, and not bigger in terms of louder, but kind of the voice of reason. Because of course, a lot of the gaming community is very, very young, and it's very, very easy to hide behind a keyboard and just kind of type your feelings, but to actually participate in dialogue is very difficult.
That's amazing. I did see a clip of that, and so it was like, wow, that's a mix that you didn't think, but it totally works. What about for you, Wendy? Like as far as talent goes?
Well, I think that a lot of us are shaped by the undesirable outcomes in our lives, right? Whether it's on a local basis or on a global basis, right? And I think in these times of uncertainty, it's important that we don't just curl up into a ball and just like check out of society. If there's anything that I've learned over the years, and even from 2016 when we had the rug pulled out from under us, it's really, like Veronika was saying, like finding community, really looking hard and figuring out your purpose, and setting intentions. And I'm speaking in very broad terms, but like in essence, that's what we try to help our clients with as well. Particularly in music, we saw a lot of big name artists come out in full support of the vice president, and the amount of sometimes, here's what I want to say, sometimes a lot of the disconnectedness comes from being untouchable, I think, and wanting to have an impact on the working class lives, right? And I think that the lesson that we can learn from this is not to shy away from the platform that you have. I think that you should actually become more vocal, but I think our role in management and working so closely with our artists is to help them get comfortable and maybe a little bit more strategic in how they shape their message. And I think that now more than ever for the next 4 years, it's important to, whether you're protesting or you decide to find causes that you really care about, whether that's the environment, whether that is, women's rights. I mean, there's a whole spectrum of issues that we're going to be faced with in the next couple of years and potentially beyond, depending on various decisions that will be made. So, again, I think that with my own team, I encourage especially the younger ones to be expressive in how they're feeling, and whether that's like taking a mental health day or whatnot, that's absolutely fine and nothing to be embarrassed about. And then with our clients, really, like it's just really sort of hand-holding them to find their voice and help them to articulate what they want to say.
I love that. I'm going to come back to something, Julie, that you talked about. I mean, you've all kind of touched on it, mentorship. It's so important, as you said, we didn't have that when we were starting out, and now you have a seat at the table to be great mentors. What I often hear so many times is like, I don't know how to get into respective fields. So what advice would you give to people seeking to like get a foot in the door?
I would say you have to make space. You have to create your own space. Sometimes waiting for that space to be created for you, you will wait much longer than you really need to, because you have to stand in your own power and you have to believe in yourself. And I think I heard this earlier, but unless you believe in yourself, it just makes things much more difficult. So I think you have to seek out a mentor. You have to seek out those spaces. And I kind of wiggled my way into every boardroom. Whether they wanted me there or not, I always contributed something, and I wanted to make sure when I did contribute something, I was remembered for that contribution.
Like that. That's great advice. Wendy?
I mean, I'm big on hustle culture, so, when I first moved to the United States, like, I didn't know anybody, I didn't have a job, so a lot of that, how I got back into the music industry in America, ironically working in hip hop and rap, which was banned in Singapore when I was growing up. So a lot of that was done through knocking on doors, cold calls, and just being really persistent and annoying. I don't think there's anything wrong with that as long as you're upfront about, I'm not just here to talk about a job, you know, like you said, the mentorship part of it is very important. And I do find a lot of people, younger people, reaching out to me, whether it's via social media or whatnot, and I try my best. I mean, that was earlier today, Vivian, who is here, like came up to me, and she's an aspiring artist, and she's, you know, that's exactly the right kind of way to go about it. Like, just take a chance, you know, maybe I'm not a bitch, and I will, right? Like, I mean, like, there's always that one chance that it's a negative response, but 99% of the time, like, you know, people like myself who have lived through multiple lives, often at this stage in our life, want to give back anyway. I want to help. I want to give mentorship. And it doesn't matter if I don't know you. I may not be able to spend a huge amount of time with you, but what I can share can hopefully make the smallest difference. And I think that's the most important part, is to not be so self-conscious to not ask for help, to not ask for advice. And over time, like, doors just start opening because you keep doing that. So I don't think there is a right way or a wrong way. I know that earlier on, the film recipients, like, I think, you know, it doesn't matter if you're qualified or not. And that is a good lesson for me to learn. Like, I didn't go to college either, but I certainly didn't let that stop me. I certainly didn't allow other people to tell me what room I belonged in to like, prevent myself from just walking through that door anyway. So, yeah.
Wait, what's your Instagram? Everybody follow Wendy.
Sorry, say that again?
What's your Instagram?
It's Wendy Ong 212.
There you go. Everybody follow her and reach out to her. Veronika, take it home.
Look, you know, I think these kinds of events are amazing and give people the opportunity to come together. You know, as somebody mentioned earlier, it builds community. It, you know, creates a space for people to learn from others and be exposed to executives in the industries and reach out. And I think those are really important. And then there are, you know, a lot of formal mentorship programs and things that are out there that you should know about. You know, for example, I sit on the board of Women in Film, and we do a lot of work to advocate for and advance the careers of, you know, emerging women in the business, you know, to create a space for parity. And that comes with fellowships, mentorships, you know, networking opportunities and socials and workshops and career programs and so on. So find those opportunities that, you know, that are out there for you to connect in different ways outside of your organization. And as the lady said, you know, it's so important to know somebody within your organization or that is in the industry that you might admire, that you might want to reach out to, and you never know, they might say yes. And I had somebody within my organization reach out to me, and she sent me this beautiful letter explaining why she needed a mentor and why she wanted it to be me. And I was completely taken by surprise, and I said, absolutely, let's talk. And we, you know, it's an amazing thing. You never know what's going to happen unless you put yourself out there.
See, kids write letters, put pen to paper, and it works. Truly, though, right? Like, yeah. And how can people reach out to you?
Well, yes, I have my universal email address. It's vkv@nbcuni.com.
I want to thank you, incredible champions, for sharing your journeys and stories today. It's been so inspiring to hear you all. And again, thank you, everybody. Thank you to the Asia Society for this incredible conversation. And I hope you all took some valuable lessons from everybody here.
And
Thanks
thank you.
again.
Thank you.